Alright, hello everyone. I have gotten some water, if you're on YouTube, from the last part. Depending on when you read this, that might not make sense. We're going to be reading some more books. Now we're doing, hopefully, a minor maze. Shalador and Labyrinthian. Labyrinthian's modern notoriety was gained in the early part of the Third Era. Part of the Staff of Chaos was recovered from Labyrinthian, which became instrumental in the overthrow of Jagar Thron, ending the Imperial Simulacrum. The site has since become embedded in the minds of all subjects of the Empire, and the ruins are occasionally visited by loyalist pilgrimages retracing the steps of the Eternal Champion. The namesake of the Labyrinthian is somewhat less commonly known, however. The foreboding ruins were originally built as a temple to the dragons. This grew into Bromjunar, a great city of that era. Bromjunar is believed by some to have been the capital of Skyrim at the height of the dragon cult's influence there. Little historical record exists to verify or refute this, but it is known that the highest-ranking priests of the cult met at Labyrinthian to discuss matters of ruling. Bromjunar crumbled, however, along with the rest of the Dragon cult, and the site lay abandoned for many years, a deteriorating reminder of those heightened days of the Nords. Not until the days of Shalador would the ruins come into use again. Shalador the Archmage was famous for his exploits in the First Era. Various tales tell of him battling Dwemer, legions single-handedly, building the city of Winterhold with a whispered spell, stealing the secret of life from Akatosh, or constructing Labyrinthian himself. While many Shalador legends are hyperbola, or outright fabrication, we can discover some truth behind his involvement in the Labyrinthian. Shalador stood at the forefront of a movement to enact higher standards among mages, and to discourage spell use among the common castes. This effort is dubiously credited with the original organization and formation of the School of Magic and the foundation of the College of Winterhold. Consistent with this mentality, Shalador constructed his labyrinth deep within the ruins of Bromjunar to test new archmages, while navigating the destroyed city itself was not explicitly a part of the test. Many candidates did not survive the journey. Shalador valued both academic knowledge as well as practical skill, and simply getting to the labyrinth required the latter. Is that an actual labyrinth? Yeah, it looks like it's an actual labyrinth. Which is not a maze. A labyrinth is just like a twisty passage. It's like, a labyrinth is like the lines at Disneyland. Where like a maze is like an IKEA? If that makes sense to people. Shalador's Labyrinthian is actually two intersecting mazes in an hourglass pattern. One maze could not be completed without exiting the other first, which makes the only existing instruction for the test especially mysterious. Enter twice, exit only once. Alteration will lead you to destruction. Only illusion shows the way to restoration. Conjure not, but be conjured instead. Really? Isn't it just like, you can't see my finger, but you go there, you go there. Oh, wait, what? Oh, it leads to a dead end. Yeah, because it's a labyrinth. Interesting. Huh. Go there, you go there, and you go there. Huh. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't know. Probably some magic nonsense. We can only guess at what the solution to the test may have been, as Labyrinthian has become notorious for not only the number of potential archmages who died there, but for the intense secrecy of those who succeeded. Labyrinthian eventually ceased to be used, and is regarded as a symbol of the more brutal age by modern institutions for magical studies. The ruins lay empty again, overrun with wild animals and avoided by travelers. The long history and legacy of this place, however, seems as likely to be erased from our minds as the ruins themselves are to sink in the sea. Into the sea. Alright. I looked up a little of these beforehand. Aedra and Daedra. The designations of gods, demons, Aedra, and Daedra are universally confusing to the layman. They're often used interchangeably. Aedra and Daedra are not relative terms. They are elvish and exact. Azura is a Daedra both in Skyrim and Morrowind. Aedra is usually translated as ancestor, which is as close as Cyrodiilic can come to this elven concept. Daedra means roughly, not our ancestor. This distinction was crucial to the Dumner, whose fundamental split in ideology is represented in their mythological genealogy. Sorry. Aedra are associated with I think I've got a bit of a cold or something. Aedra are associated with stasis. Daedra represent change. Aedra created the mortal world and are bound to the earth's bones. Daedra, who cannot create, have the power to change. As a part of the divine contract of creation, the Aedra can be killed. Witness Lorcan in the Moons. The Protean Daedra, for whom the rules do not apply, can only be banished. For money when you put it on your enchantments. I hear. Yeah, it was Antecedents of Dwemer Law. Alduin is real, and he ent Akatosh by Thromgar Ironhead Proud Nord. I am not going to do a silly voice for this, but I see what they're getting at. I'll do it. As my dad used to say, Imperials are idiots. That's why I'm writing this book. I ain't never wrote a book before, and I don't reckon to write one again. But sometimes a man must do what a man must do, and what I must do is set the record straight about the god called Akatosh and the dragon called Alduin. I ain't the same thing, no matter what the Imperials might say or how they might wish it be so. My dad was never one for the gods, but my ma was. She worshipped all the divines and taught me lots of things. So I know a thing or two about Akatosh. Just as much as any Imperial, I know he was the first of all gods to take shape in the beginning place, and I know he has the shape of a dragon. My dad even told me the story of Martin Septim and the things that happened when the gates of Oblivion opened. Septim turned to the spirit of Akatosh, now killed Mern's dragon. Now I don't know about you, but any dragon that fights the Prince of Destruction is okay by me. Now I hope you understand the problem. Akatosh is good. Everyone from Nord to Imperial knows that. But Alduin, he ain't good. He's the opposite of good. That Alduin is even true and true. So you see, Akatosh and Alduin can't be one and the same. Growing up as a lad in Skyrim, I heard all the stories told to me by my dad, who was told by his dad, who was told by his dad, and so on. One of those stories was about Alduin, but see, he was not Akatosh. He was another dragon, and a real one at that. Akatosh is some kind of spirit dragon, I think, when he bothers to be a dragon at all, and not a god living in some kind of god place like Oblivion. But Alduin is a real dragon, with flesh and teeth and mean streak, longer than the White River. And then there was a time when Alduin tried to rule over all of Skyrim with his other dragons. In the end, it took some mighty strong heroes to finally kill Alduin and be done with his whole source story. So I gotta ask, does that sound like Akatosh to you? No, friend, no it does not. No, it do not. And so I, Thromagar Ironhead, do firmly say, with the most conviction that Alduin is real and he ain't Akatosh. That went differently than I thought it was going to go. So, people walking behind me, so annoying. An Explorer's Guide to Skyrim by Marcius Carvain, Viscount Bruma. Ooh, those pages are pretty dense. Far too often, noble visitors from Cyrodiil see little more of Skyrim than the view from their carriage. To be sure, this coarse and civilized province is far from hospitable, but it is also a place of fierce wild beauty, with grand vistas and inspiring natural wonders awaiting those with the will to seek them out and the refinement to truly appreciate them. If you have a mind to see Skyrim for yourself, I recommend beginning your adventure as I did, by seeking out Stones of Fate. No doubt you were taken aback by the name, as I once was. The provincials and village folk have all manner of dark tales about these ancient monuments. Stories of necromantic rituals and fell spirits and great and terrible powers conferred on any who dare to touch them. The stories are, as Jarl Ingolf once told me, a load of mammoth dung. A bit uncouth, but you get the point. To be sure, keep your guard with you at all times. Brigands and wild animals are never to be taken lightly. But the stones themselves are nothing to fear. Quite the contrary. Their proximity to cities and roads make them ideal destinations for the novice explorer, and many boast spectacular views that make the journey well worth the effort. To whet your appetite, here are 4 such locations. Most travelers enter Skyrim by way of Helgen, gateway to the north. If you find yourself in this backwater hovel, consider taking an afternoon's ride to the north, keeping to the road as it winds down the cliffs at the eastern edge of Lake Ilinalta, just off the path. On a small bluff lie the 3 Guardian Stones, the greatest concentration of standing stones in all of Skyrim. The view of the lake here at the sunset is simply sublime. Visitors from the Chindnall will pass through Riften, city of intrigue and larceny since Tiber Septim's day. If you seek adventure in the Rift, leave the city by the southern gate and cast your gaze upon the bluff that rises to the south. Atop it sits the Shadow Stone, a fitting symbol for the city of thieves. Whiterun is the heart of Skyrim, its towering palace rivaling even the greatest castles of Cyrodiil. But should you tire of the Jarl's hospitality, another adventure awaits a few hours to the east of the city, along the road that rises to the White River Gorge. The Ritual Stone can be found atop the lone hill that rises to the north of the road, set into an ancient monument. Take time to soak in the incredible view of Whiterun, the tundra, and the gorge from this unique spot. More seasoned explorers may wish to visit Markarth, the ancient city of stone far to the west. The recent Forsworn rebellion has made travel in the Reach perilous, but for those determined to seek adventure no matter the cost, another stone can be found to the east of the city, perched on the mountain above Kolskigar Mine. Though the climb is difficult, reaching the summit is a milestone any explorer could be proud of. There are other stones of fate to be found in Skyrim. I myself have seen several more, perched on the most remote mountain peaks, or wreathed in fog amid the northern marshes. But the true joy of exploration is the discovery, and so I leave the rest to you. May the 8 guide your steps. Alright, and I know I've read that one, so let's just delete these. A minor maze. And then it was Adria and Daedria. Alduin is real. And an Explorer's Guide to Skyrim. So, I've done all those. Ah, no. So I've done that. Do I have... Did I really read the Forge Manual? I don't remember reading this. Oh, this list is sorted by, like a library. Whereas here it's sorted by strict alphabeticals, where thes count. QRST. Did I really read that already? I don't think I read that.
Nephew, I apologize that I cannot see you personally before you leave. The trip from Sadrith Mora is treacherous this season. I would have visited upon hearing the news. The Nords have a fine college at Winterhold, and I am sure you will excel. You may know that I too attended there. I was quite the conjuration adept in my own day. I am sending you my notes on something called the Atronach Forge, a bit of a project of mine while at Winterhold. Mention nothing to the faculty, but ask your fellow pupils about a place called the Midden. You will find the forge there. I fear a number of my notes are missing, scattered around, and lost in my travels around Skyrim. Perhaps you may stumble across these in your own adventures. The Atronach Forge offers few clues as to who built it, and even fewer as to how to unlock its full potentials. Only through blind experiment and a few singed eyebrows I have been able to understand its function. The forge is mostly a large dais, almost crude of make, but emblazoned with the traditional Daedric rune. An offering box is attached, as well as a prominent lever.
Oh, I remember that thing. I couldn't get it to work, because I didn't have this book, I guess.
The dais also features a large setting, which seems set to receive some large spherical object. I have had no luck determining what this missing object may be, however, or what effect it may have on the efficiency of the forge. The forge is activated by placing certain items into the offering box and then pulling the lever. The forge consumes the items and conjures something upon the dais. The conjuration can be predicted reliably if the appropriate items are left in the box. But many combinations either have no effect or catastrophic reactions. Once I conjured a wild goat. Well, most of a goat at least. Experimenting wildly with the forge is dangerous. I've recorded such recipes I have discovered on the following pages. The simplest, yet perhaps most hazardous stable recipe is that for a summon Atronach. These conjured brutes will attack the first thing they see. However, be ready for battle if you have reason to use these recipes. Okay? I am not spending a ruby to summon a flame matriarch. But it's good to know. I didn't know that happened. I definitely haven't read that before. Battle Stance Tour? I've not read that. The Battle of Sancretor. In Second Era 852, Allied Nord and Breton forces crossed the border into Cyrodiil and occupied the major passes and settlements in the Jarrell Mountains. Making their headquarters for the winter at Sancretor, the Nord-Breton allies dared King Culican's new general, Talos, to assault them in their mountain fastnesses. When they learned that General Talos had mustered an army in the dead of winter and was marching to assault Sancretor, they were elated. Sancretor was impregnable, its citadel on high cliffs overlooking the lower city, nestled in a high mountain basin within steep, unscalable cliffs in the rear. How do you get up there, then? The Cyrodiilic army was small, poorly trained and outfitted, short on rations and unprepared for winter campaigning. As the ragged units assembled in the lowlands beneath the citadel, the Nord-Breton allies confidently assumed that their enemy had delivered himself into their trap. The citadel was not only protected by an unscalable cliff in the front and unscalable heights in the rear, but the entrance to the citadel was magically concealed under the appearance of a large mountain lake in the basin beneath the heights. Accordingly, the Nord-Breton allies left only a small force to defend the citadel, descending through the lower passages to attack and overwhelm the cold, hungry Cyrodiilic forces before them. They expected to defeat, overrun, and annihilate General Talos' army, leaving no one to oppose their springtime descent to the Cyrodiilic heartlands. Thus did General Talos lure the Nord-Breton allies to their doom. Leaving a weak force in the lowlands to draw out the defenders, General Talos approached the citadel of Sancretor from the rear, descending the supposedly unscalable heights behind the citadel and sneaking into the supposedly magically concealed entrance to the inner citadel. This remarkable feat is attributed to the agency of a single unnamed traitor. By tradition, a Breton turncourt sorcerer who revealed both the existence of an obscure mountain trail down the heights behind the citadel and the secret of the citadel entrance concealed beneath its illusionary lake surface. While the Cyrodiilic army in the lowlands fought a desperate defense against the Nord Breton sortie, General Talos and his men entered the citadel, swept aside the sparse defense, captured the Nord Breton nobles and generals, and compelled them to surrender the citadel and their armies. The confused and demoralized Nord captives, already suspicious of the scheming High Rock sorcerer aristocracy and their overwhelming dreams of Heartland's conquest, deserted the alliance and swore loyalty to Tiber Septim. The Skyrim generals joined the rank and file of Tiber Septim's army. The High Rock Battle Mage command was summarily executed, and the captive Bretons imprisoned or sold into slavery. Thus was the concentrated allied invasion of Cyrodiil foiled, and General Talos' army swelled by the hardened Nord, veteran troops that played so crucial a role in General Talos' succeeding campaigns, which consolidated the Colvian and Nibenian into the core of the Cyrodiilic Empire, and which resulted in the crowning of General Talos as Emperor Tiber Septim. Historians marvel at Tiber Septim's tactical daring in assaulting a fortified mountain citadel in the dead of winter against vastly superior numbers. Later, Tiber Septim attributed his unwavering resolve against overwhelming obstacles to have been inspired by his divine vision of the Amulet of Kings in the tomb of Remen III. The young Talos may indeed have been inspired by his belief that he was fated to recover this ancient sacred symbol of the Covenant and to lead Tamriel to the high civilization of the Third Empire. Nonetheless, this should in no way reduce our admiration of the dash and genius of this defining military triumph against impossible odds.
So there was a king named Talos, and then a general named Talos who became a king, which was the king named Tiber Septim. And then later there was a god named Talos. So it makes a little bit more sense why the new leaders, the Imperials, have outlawed Talos, because it seems to be like a symbol of the Empire. Beggar Prince? Beggar Prince, the story of Weedle and his gifts from the Daedric Lord Namira. We look down upon the beggars of the Empire. These lost souls are the poor and wretched of the land. Every city has its beggars. Most are so poor that they only have the clothes on their backs. They eat the scraps the rest of us throw out. We toss them a coin so that we don't have to think too long about their plight. Imagine my surprise when I heard the tale of the Beggar Prince. I could not imagine what a prince of beggars would be. Here's the tale I heard. It takes place in the first age, when gods walked like men, and Daedra stalked the wilderness with impunity. It is a time before they were all confined to oblivion. There once was a man named Weedle, or maybe it was a woman. The story goes to great length to avoid declaring Weedle's gender. Weedle was the 13th child of a king in Valenwood. As such, Weedle was in no position to take the throne, or even inherit much property or wealth. Weedle had left the palace to find independent fortune and glory. After many days of endless forest roads and tiny villages, Weedle came upon 3 men surrounding a beggar. The beggar was swaddled in rags from head to toe. No portion of the vagabond's body was visible. The men were intent on slaying the beggar. When a cry of rage and indignation, Weedle charged the men with sword drawn. Being simple townsfolk armed with only pitchforks and scythes, they immediately fled the armored figure with the shining sword. "Many thanks for saving me," wheezed the beggar. From beneath a heap of fell rags, Weedle could barely stand the stench. "What is your name, wretch?" Weedle asked. "I am Namira." Unlike the townfolk, Weedle was well learned. That name meant nothing to them, but to Weedle it was an opportunity. "You are a Daedric lord," Weedle exclaimed. "Why did you allow these men to harass you? You could have slain them all with a whisper." "I am pleased you recognize me," Namira rasped. "I am frequently reviled by townsfolk. It pleases me to be recognized for my attribute if not for my name. Weedle knew that Namira was the Daedric lord of all things gross and repulsive. Diseases such as leprosy and gangrene were her domain. Where others might have seen danger, Weedle saw opportunity. O great Namira, let me apprentice myself to you. I ask only that you grant me powers to make my fortune and forge a name for myself that will live throughout the ages. Nay, I will make my way alone in the world. I have no need for an apprentice. Namira shambled off down the road. Weedle would not be put off. With a bound, Weedle was at Namira's heels, pressing the case for an apprentice. For 33 days and nights, Weedle kept up the debate. Namira said nothing, but Weedle's voice was ceaseless. Finally, on the 33rd day, Weedle was too hoarse to talk. Namira looked back on the suddenly silent figure. Weedle knelt in the mud at her feet, open hands raised in supplication. It would seem you have completed your apprenticeship to me after all, Namira declared. I shall grant your request. Weedle was overjoyed. I grant you the power of disease. You may choose to be afflicted with any disease you choose, changing them at will, so long as it has visible symptoms. However, you must always bear at least one. I grant you the power of pity. You may evoke a pity in anyone that sees you. Finally, I grant you the power of disregard. You may cause others to disregard your presence. Weedle was aghast. These were not boons from which a fortune could be made. They were curses, each awful in their own right. But together they were unthinkable. How am I to make my fortune and forge a name for myself with these terrible gifts? As you begged at my feet for 33 days and 33 nights, so shall you now beg for your fortune in the cities of men. Your name will become legendary among the beggars of Tamriel. The story of Weedle, the prince of beggars, shall be handed down through generations. It was as Nymeria predicted. Weedle was an irresistible beggar. None could see the wretch without desperately wanting to toss a coin at the huddled form. However, Weedle also discovered that the power of disregard gave great access to secrets of the realms. People unknowingly said important things where Weedle could hear them. Weedle grew to know the comings and goings of every citizen in the city. To this day, it is said that if you really want to know something, go ask the beggars. They have eyes and ears throughout the city. They know all the little secrets of the daily lives of the citizens. And that's a good place to stop because that hurt my voice.